Flora-Friendly Landscaping Coordinator, and this is the Virtual Plant Clinic, the weekly Virtual Plant Clinic. As always, you can leave any comments or questions you have in the comments, whether you're watching live or recorded. If you're watching it recorded, Dr. Lester and the folks over at Extension will do their best to get you some answers. But today it's just going to be me. I got a call from Bernie. What's crazy is they're calling me back. I don't. But he had just told me that they're actually out of internet, so it's just me here. I'm going to answer and see what they say. Oh, I think I missed it. But anyways, I'll do my best to answer any questions you may have. So, like I said, just going to be me today. Good morning, Bassem. Thanks for joining me this morning. And Bill, good morning. Let's see here. So, as always, you can leave your comments down, or leave any questions you have down in the comments. I do have a couple things that I'd kind of want to touch on today. Seeing as they're giving me a free soapbox, I can guide it as I see fit. And I would have had this stuff ready, but it was kind of late notice that it would just be me. So I want to talk about Hernando County's fertilizer ordinance and why we have fertilizer ordinances, why those things are important. So I'm going to find the poster I have that should be displayed in all of our unincorporated Hernando County fertilizer retailers. Just a second. Alrighty. Got this pulled up. I'll make it big so everybody can see it. Okay. So, effective last year, May 23rd, we have some new fertilizer restrictions. These have been in place now for a season. So the main thing here is that your urban turf fertilizers containing nitrogen, you can't use those. It's actually nitrogen and phosphorus. Those are prohibited from December 15th through March 15th and from June 1st through September 30th. And those summer restrictions are pretty common. But we also have that cold season, dry season even, restrictions as well. Or the cold season restrictions. And the reason for those, right, is that summer one, it rains a lot, So anytime that we're putting down what should be slow release nitrogen, anytime it rains, all that stuff's going to immediately be washed down back into our groundwater resources. And we want to avoid that if at all possible. And the reason that we have that winter block from December 15th to March 15th, that's because a lot of our turf grasses are dormant during that time. They're not really growing, and having having those nutrients even available for them they're not going to take them because they're not growing. They're not going to uptake those, meaning it sits in the soil. The very first time that it rains, anything that you've left there, it ends up being washed down again. And that's really what we want to avoid. So some other things we can touch on here. We want to avoid putting fertilizer down within 25 feet of adjacent wetlands or surface waters. That's really, once again, just to keep the fertilizer out of the water. And that's kind of the goal of almost all of almost any fertilizer ordinance really is to keep those nutrients out of our water. So another addition, which this is a big one, is that the commercial applicators are no longer exempt from those rules. So it used to be you could even you as a homeowner, or you couldn't put it down, but if you hired a licensed fertilizer applicator who came in, they were exempt from those rules, and that's no longer the case. So they can't actually put them down either. And then as you can see over here, that signage must be up. And if you're from the area, one place where I know you can find them is at the Walmart on 50 in Brooksville. That one, I know it's up right now behind the customer service desk, but I'm going to be back over there before that December 15th start date, and we're going to put them back up over in the garden center, so you can see it. Because the thing is we can't, the county can't outlaw the sale of that fertilizer during those times. That's it's kind of a reach. I don't know that we'd be able to get that done, but so you can still buy it. There's no restriction on buying it, but this is in our ordinance. And the reason for some of that boils down to water conservation, water quality conservation, keeping our water resources healthy. So I'm going to kind of show you some of those effects here. Like I said, I would have prepared a little better. It was kind of late notice that I was doing this alone. I'm going to find us a good. Oh, here's a wonderful picture that will illustrate what I'm talking about here. So, as you can see, this is a very green body of water. It's a river of some kind. I don't know where this is, but this kind of illustrates what can happen when you have those excess nutrients that wouldn't typically be there in the water. So the algae here that we see, it uptakes those same nitrogen, phosphorus nutrients. It uptakes them and uses them the same way a plant does. However, a lot of those algae are aerobic, and they're using up oxygen as well. So we end up having a decrease in the available DO, or dissolved oxygen, in those bodies of water, and that causes not only your animal life to die, but your plant life to die too. So you end up with these dead bodies of water, basically caused by these algal blooms, and they don't. It takes a whole lot of time to recover, to get back to a natural, natural state of being in these places when they have these big these nutrient dumps, right? So we want to prevent that nutrient wash down from runoff. It's something you don't think about a lot when you think about pollution. When you think about pollution, you think about garbage and crazy dangerous chemicals and things like that. But nutrient pollution is a really, really big deal, and it's something that not only us at the county are constantly being aware of, like testing bodies of water and things like that, but also at the state level with our water management districts, and even at department, the environmental protection, at the state and federal levels. They pay attention to this stuff too. It is, it's not something that you would typically think is a source of pollution, but that is, it is a really important one. So just to catch everybody up, if you've joined after I started, Bernie was meant to be here with me today. He gave me a call, right before it started, that they lost their internet. So they are, I'm taking this one on my own. So as always, if you have any questions, comments, anything like that, please just put them in the chat, and I'll do my best to answer them. after you guys let me go on my spiel of eutrophication, which is that I neglected to mention. Eutrophication is that process where you end up with those uh, the dead bodies of water from algal blooms and such. Let's see if there's any other hot topics I can bring to everyone's attention. I want to remind you too, if you're someone who is doing your own lawn care when it comes to your turf grass, part of that as well is that you want to avoid. I actually think it's in the ordinance. You can't mow the grass out into the road. If it gets in the road, you have to sweep it, and you should sweep it back into your yard. The reason for that is, excuse me. The reason for that is that a lot of times, especially if you're fertilizing, that grass has nitrogen all over it, which ends up being the exact same as just leaving fertilizer out on the road. But also, when it comes to, even if you don't fertilize, sweeping it back into your yard is going to allow those nutrients that that energy and the nutrients you've invested in that grass to stay in your yard. You're not losing it. I always leave my grass clippings. I rake them out so they're not stacked up. You don't want to block all the light, but they decompose and then those nutrients go back into your soil. A little bit of it almost can act like a mulch. I know people who will mulch over their flower beds with their cut grass, and it's worked pretty well for them. So let's see here. Go over some. If there's any hot topics here. Once again, so sorry that I wasn't more well prepared. I would add a presentation or something should I known it was just me. Mm-mm. If you have any questions, please feel free to put them in the comments. And if you have something you don't want to ask, you don't think I can answer you, that may be correct. I might not be able to. If you leave question in the comments after this video is done, after our presentation or after our plant clinic's over, Dr. Bill will go back through and he tries his best to answer any of those. Any of the questions that we didn't get to during, or if they were put after, the comment section stays up and he does check it.
Shots to that apple one. Going once. Shots to that one.
Okay. So Bassem has a question here. Can I use compost to spread on my lawn, and how often can you do so? So yes, you can. That's actually a really great way to add some organic material into your into your yard. I know that typically those that compost is going to last anywhere from 6 months to a year, depending on the quality of your compost. There's a lot of variables there that might determine how well it takes into your soil. Then that may be, you might have a certain soil chemistry. You might, if you're in really sandy soil, it's not going to take as much because you don't want to stack it up so high that it blocks your grass from getting sun. That's not going to help you. But I think I'm going to try to find the UF guidance for you here. But I know that in certain soil types, it may even last well over a year, and you only have to do it once a year. But I think around here, twice, 2 times a year is pretty standard. So let's see here. I want to find the some actual hard information for you. So the guidance here says that you want to use only that finished compost. You don't want to use anything that's not done. And we're not gonna. And you have to remember that here, our very temperate, almost subtropical environment we have here, your organic material that's in your soil is going to be used up pretty quickly. So I think you want to put an inch or two down on your soil, and that should be before, if you have the ability to put it down before you plant new grass or something like that. That's going to really help you. In that case, you can work it in and kind of spread it out amongst. But if you already have it down just an inch or so, I think twice a year is what they're recommending. And so Bill says, I have a lot less fungus-related diseases fertilizing my turf just 3 times a year with granular versus the lawn service company spraying it every month. Sure, and then that makes a lot of sense. The lawn services that are spraying that, most of the time they're spraying liquid, which not only, it is more quickly available to the plants, but that's not always a good thing, because not only the grass is going to use it. So you have to think that we have to remember that growth is a stressor on plants. So by constantly bombarding them with those nutrients, it is going to be they are going to be a little bit more stressed out, especially if you're doing it every month. But with those granular fertilizers, those typically tend to be slow release, as I'm sure you know. Those end up being releasing nitrogen and the grass is uptaking what it needs, and not like I said, being bombarded with those nutrients. And there's plenty of other organisms that are going to use that nitrogen as well to grow. So only having enough for the grass really is a benefit. I do tell people, it's not a, you want to plan, you want to plan your fertilization not only around your local ordinances, but around the rain and things like that. I would have hated if someone just had laid down a whole bunch of granular on their lawn right before, Helene or Milton, because all that slow release is just going to get washed away. The IFAS Gardening Solutions website, it's a really good resource for if you're looking for specifics. I really like the there's a whole lot of articles that really explain it in not so complicated terms that you have to have a PhD to understand it. But it's also not. I don't think they're dumbing it down. It does give you the full. It does give you a whole lot of information. And personally, as we mentioned before, I like the older articles a little bit more. Information dense ones better. I think they have gotten a little bit simplified as they've replaced them, but I'm pretty sure that if you're good at Google and stuff, you can find a lot of those older articles, or even finding the PDFs of the research papers or other publications that were written. Those are a wonderful resource. And I don't know enough about UF system to know how to search for the, like those older like PDF publications where they're from a book or something. Those ones I think always have some really, really good information. Something that might be 15-year-old pine tree is losing leaves and its branches dying. Is there a way to bring it back to normal? Well, it depends. Do you know what type of pine tree it is? Because there's a lot of different. There's a whole lot of different variables that may cause some that may cause different effects. I know there's a, I'm digging pretty deep here, but I'm the rust. That's a fungal disease, and it's really I'm not a pine tree expert by any means. I mean, maybe that might be one better suited for Dr. Lester, but he may know from looking at a picture. You really should, and this is a great time to plug his email. Like things like that, plant disease questions, really the best way. You can only know so much from words and descriptions. Pictures are, when you're trying to diagnose any type of plant problem, pictures are going to be your best friend. So if you have any issues like that, a great resource is Dr. Lester's email right here. You can send him plenty of pictures, and he's real good at knowing how to determine it. And if he doesn't, which in my experience is pretty rare, he has access to the entire University of Florida community, that there's someone who's an expert, and that's kind of how it goes. So but back to your question with your pine tree, it depends, because there can be some trunk damage that causes that from like those boring insect larvae that'll get in there, and that can cause some issues. Like I said, the fungal disease, the rust. I cannot remember what the first. There's a descriptor, but when I hear it referred to, it's always just the rust. There's pine beetles. That's a big one. They like to get in the resin, and that's kind of those you'll see trunk damage. Those are you can be aware of it because they don't go through the bark; they go through the bare. They're bare woods. Those let's see here. I believe that says fusiform rust, and that rust has it almost makes like I think they're referred to as blisters. It's like a big yellow, almost knot on the trunk or branches of that tree, and that's going to be. Let's see if I can find this a picture. Here we go. So that right there is an example of that rust. As you can see, this yellow blister. The article describes it as the fruiting seal stage of fusiform rust. So, and I know that this will actually kill a pine tree. I'm not sure. Really, like you have to cut these galls off. You want to keep them off of the. It's one of those where if it's too much, if there's too much of, like you see this right here, like you'd have to cut that down. But that one's a bit more obvious, and sometimes they're not. Sometimes it may be maybe some kind of nutrient deficiency. That might not be as obvious as something like the rust. We can talk about the those pine trees a little bit more. I'm a big fan of pine trees. So there's pretty commonly we have like longleaf pines, which, as their name implies, have very long. Their needles tend to be quite a bit longer. They tend to grow straight up. And then we have another common one, sand pines, which I like quite a bit. Those are neat. They'll grow in like sand dunes and stuff like that. Then they tend to not be as big. They really like to grow in a lot of our Florida unique ecosystems like the scrub, um, which is super cool. We have a lot of sandy soil in Florida, as we're all aware, and they like to thrive in a lot of those sandy type ecosystems. So for those of you who are Hernando County residents, I would like to touch on something real quick, kind of a little plug. So every month, in conjunction with Dr. Lester and our recycling coordinator, Leanna Teague, we do rainbow workshops. I do the rainbow workshops, and Dr. Lester does our compost bin workshops. And through this program, we're able to offer very high quality rain barrels at a really good price, discounted. Our rain barrels currently in 2024 are $66. That price will be going up to $67, I think, at the beginning of the year, just because that's what we purchased our 2025 barrels for. We give them to you at cost, and it's a really good deal, because if you're buying a purpose-built rain barrel, with the important features that makes that makes it good to buy a purpose-built one, that they're way more expensive than that, even double the price. I don't know how much the specific one that we use goes for, as a consumer, but I do know it's quite a bit more expensive than what we sell it for. Because I like to tell people, I'm not in the rain barrel business. We're not trying to make money, but we do have to recuperate the cost of buying the barrels. And I get one of the questions I get a lot of times from people is like, well, why wouldn't I just build it myself? And you certainly could. There's nothing stopping you from that. And I even encourage people who want to build it themselves to come to the class. You don't have to pay any money to go to the class. If you're just attending for education, there's nothing wrong with that. But the things that you lose. So we have really fine mosquito screening on the top, so you tend not to have mosquito issues. The lid is even funnel shaped already, so you don't have to have any sort of apparatus outside of your gutter or wherever your rainwater falls to collect it there. It also has the overflow tubes. You can daisy chain the barrels together to use a few of them, all in conjunction, which is kind of neat. And then in addition to the rain barrels, solid waste and recycling, actually, we give away compost bins completely for free to Hernando County residents. So normally the way that goes is Dr. Lester was a really super informative class on how to compost, what compost is used for, the whole nine. And with that, we will. He also goes into exactly what to put in them, and then we have a really nice high quality compost bin that is given for free to residents of Hernando County, which is a program that everyone here is super proud of, that we're able to do that. So we do these together. Typically, they're once a month. Towards the end of the year, they tend to be. And by towards the end of the year, just November, December, we tend to have some. It's the holidays. People are busy, so we only do one. This year, we're only going to do one anyway. That's going to be at the beginning of December. So if you're interested in signing up for those, I don't have it up right now, but I do have the wait list up. So you can go to my link tree here and join the wait list. And as soon as we have that date up, it's going to be in the beginning of December. I think the first week of December. You can sign for the wait list, and I notify you as soon as we have that date pinned down. And Bill says that the rain barrels are really nice, and he needs to get a second one. Well, you are more than welcome. The way that this works is you can actually have 4 per household, 1 per person. So as long as you bring someone from your household with you, you can get a second barrel. It's super. Excuse me. It's really a lot of people. The barrels fill up quickly, but if you have uses for them, like you'll burn through that water really fast. These are 55-gallon barrels. They are pretty large, which can be a positive and a negative, I guess, depending on the rules where you live. Where I live, I could put it in the front yard, right in the middle of my driveway, and no one would say anything. But that's not the case everywhere. So the barrels are like beige colored, which tends to blend in a little bit better. And I've had success with people having these barrels in all kinds of different HOAs. I even did a workshop inside of High Point, which is one of our 55 and up communities here in Hernando County, and I did one there. And they have a HOA rules, and it ended up being perfectly fine. So, like I said, I'll put it up one more time here for you. If you're interested in attending a workshop, the best thing to do is to visit this website, sign up for the wait list, and I will send you an email that says, hey, it's time to sign up for the Rain Bear Workshop. Or if you have any questions, anything that might be a little much for here, please just send me an email or you can give me a call as well. I don't know that Bill doesn't have a banner for my phone number, but it's the water conservation number. If you're in Hernando County and you get a water bill, it's pretty easy to find. I'm the, let's see here, the 754-4705, the number that's on all your bill inserts. You're going to find me. So if anyone has any questions, once again, feel free to put them down in the comments, and I will do my best to answer them. Let's see. Oh, another exciting thing that I can talk about is our upcoming for 2025, our water awareness speaker series, which is going to be every month. Myself, Dr. Lesher is going to speak at some of them. Bernie's going to speak at one of them. We have we're going to just have different speakers talking about water conservation, environmental issues, lawn care, the whole nine, anything that you associate with Florida-friendly landscaping, or even Dr. Lesher with Extension. We're going to have all kinds of different speakers. I know we have pollinator gardeners set up for one, and even things like our local conservation lands that we have in Hernando County. You're going to learn a lot. We're going to have refreshments provided. It's going to be a really good time, and I'm hoping to have a really good turnout. I really, really, really want to push this because it's going to be a super informative and I think entertaining and fun event that we're going to do every single month. I believe, let me get my calendar here. So our first one is going to take place the first week of January 8th, where we're going to, Dr. Lesher is going to have a talk on winter vegetable gardening, and I'm going to talk about some cold weather landscape care. So how and why we, cover, covering your plants, things like that, and maybe get into the weeds of some things that you can do to make your landscape a little more cold tolerant. And going on from that, we have all kinds of different things. I don't want to spoil them yet by putting them out, but this has been something that's been in the works for some time. I know that before I took this program over from Lily last year, this was something that they did similar, and I'm trying to keep that going because it was a very well attended event, and from what I've heard, super beloved and informative. I'm trying to think of other things that I have coming up that I might be able to talk about. I'm in a big open office, so we might go ahead and wrap this one up a little bit early today. I'll go ahead and start our plugs here. And if you have any questions, please, once again, feel free to put them in the comments. So to begin with, if you have any type of, really difficult, really in the weeds questions, you're going to want to send those right to Dr. Lesher. There's his email. Make sure that if you're having anything like super specific, especially if you're unsure of exact names and things like that, you really want to try to take pictures. The pictures are our best friend when we're trying to figure out different plant issues. And everything that Dr. Lesher does, I know that this is kind of hooked right up to their Facebook right below me there at www.hernandoextension.com. They it's updated super often. I think it goes with any events they have. It's kind of a one-stop shop for everything that they do. And you could call him right now because he's not on a plant clinic, and talk to Bernie if you have anything that might be better served over the phone. That's a great calling them can get a lot of your problems solved. I believe Bernie's there pretty much all day on Thursdays. Once again, as I don't think I've mentioned them this time, I'm a big fan of the Master Gardener Nursery. They, guarantee that you're going to get solid plants for our area, Florida-friendly plants. By purchasing from them, you're supporting the Master Gardener program. So this, the Master Gardener Nursery is located behind the fairgrounds right off of 41. You want to turn onto Oliver Street, and it's back just to right before you get to Animal Services there. I'm not sure if they have went back to their normal hours, but they are open, I believe, Wednesday 8 to 11 and Saturday 8 to 11. But I think they might, at some point, when it gets a little bit cooler, it gets sweltering out the middle of the day. They'll go, I think, 9 to 12. And I'm not sure of the status of their hours right now, but Wednesdays and Saturdays, it's a great place to check out. If you haven't got enough of, okay, here we go. We do have a question here. Sorry about that. Bassem asks, can you tell us about how to compost your organic material at home? I can give you the quick rundown because there is actually there's quite a lot of information. You can go to it, but basically you want your your greens and your browns, your carbon or nitrogen and things like that. You want a nice balance between your greens, those are your grass clippings, fruit peels, things like that, and your browns, that's going to be your sticks, cardboard, things like that. We want a good ratio of those, and you want to put them in your bin. The big thing with compost is that we want the good bacteria that are working in that compost. Those are our aerobic bacteria, meaning that they need oxygen. Right. I wish I had Dr. Lester has a really good, or Leanna has a really good cheat sheet that they pass out that kind of explains a lot of really easy. It'd be a great thing to refer to now. But putting those in the bin and making sure that we have oxygen available to those bacteria, because the thing is like what's in your septic tank, your stinky bacteria, if you will, those are anaerobic bacteria. They don't need oxygen, and they tend to flourish when there is no oxygen. But when you have a lot of oxygen available, that tends to be your aerobic bacteria, the not stinky bacteria that we want. So anyways, back to it. So your browns, you want a good ratio of browns to greens. You want your browns, which contain carbon. Those are going to be your fallen leaves, like I said, sticks and stuff, shredded newspaper and cardboard, paper towels, paper products. Those are all browns. Those are carbon containing. Then you want also to have greens there. So your greens are grass clippings, kitchen scraps, and then like if you're picking herbaceous plants, weeds and such that you're putting in it, that's also going to be those are also going to be your greens. There's actually things though that you want to avoid composting. We don't want to compost your human or pet waste. That's not we want to avoid that. That's you're introducing a lot of things that we don't really want in our compost there. Any of your chemically treated wood, we want to avoid that. If you like sprayed your yard with pesticides or herbicides, we don't want to put those in there. Any animal products, with the exception of eggshells are fine, and you can crush those up and put them in there. The finer you crush them up, the faster they will decompose. But getting into more of like exactly how it goes, you want to start with equal amounts, and then as your compost progresses, you can add more browns, add more greens, depending on how it looks. We want a little bit of water in there. You don't want it to be dry. That's not beneficial. That's not helping you compost. So a little bit of water. In Dr. Lester's presentation, he says that you want to feel like a moist sponge, not soggy, not dripping wet, somewhere in the middle. And making sure that you have that, make sure oxygen gets in there, and then nature pretty much does the rest. Maybe turn it once a week, and that'll be about it. So if you are interested in composting and you are a resident of Hernando County, I really, really implore you to come to the workshop, even if you don't want a bin, because it is super informative. There's also a PDF you can find out there. Once again, I think he mentions this in the lost me there for a second. The New York City Master Composter Manual. If you Google it, there's a PDF of it, and that's got a whole lot of information, a little bit more dense, a little bit more specific, that you can find. Should you be interested. So I hope that was a good starter for composting. If you want some long form content, some little more specific, any presentations that I've done, my predecessor Lily had done, or Dr. Lester, anything that was recorded ends up getting put on the Hernando County Government YouTube channel. Not only does Florida Friendly Landscaping have a playlist there that has mine and Lily's videos on it, Extension has one as well. So all of the Extension stuff that's been recorded, it all exists there. And finally here, I'm going to plug my stuff. Any utilities questions, you can send those right over to me. Anything Florida Friendly Landscape, you can email me right there at my email on the screen. And anything that I'm doing, any of my events, those types of stuff, that will always be on my link tree. I update it all the time. There's always good and helpful information there. Rebate information, all that stuff is going to be on the link tree. So with that, I think we might get ready here to wrap it up. So if there's any last minute questions for this week, hopefully next week, extensions, tech issues may be solved. And I think Bill will be back. I knew he wasn't going to be here today, but I didn't know Bernie wasn't going to be here until right before. And it's not for lack of trying, man. He does really enjoy it, as do I, and as does Dr. Lester. Remember, I know we mention it all the time, but if you guys didn't come and participate and watch us, I know that we would not do it every week. So once again, thanks everybody. I think that's going to be it for me today, and I will see you all next week. Have a great rest of your week and a great weekend.
So,